As William Bruce Targaryen and Daenerys return from break, they go past the stairs that leads to the other library and into the Genealogical Hall of Records library, and as William takes a seat, Daenerys hands him a scroll, looking kind of serious. Is there anything wrong, Daenerys? No. You're going to learn of my father now. I appreciate you promising not to repeat certain things that have been said about him, even if they were true. Therefore, I shall say it for you. Not that I don't trust you, but because I know you'll be reading about this. He has been... She kind of seems reluctant. She looks down. The Mad King. After kind of shifting his weight in his seat a bit, feeling a little bit uneasy about this, she looks back up at him. But you can rest assured, William, I would not hold anything against you because I want you to learn of this anyway. If you sit the right hand following in my stead, you have to know everything about my House Targaryen. And I already knew that eventually you're going to be asked questions anyway, so now you'll know everything about me. Well, that's a good thing, isn't it? Yes, it is, William. She seems a little bit with a slight smile, and then sits down as well. Before you learn about my birth, my brother, second brother, Viserys, was a bit older than me. I don't come into the world yet until much later. Oh, really? So you mean I gotta learn about your brother? I mean, not that I mind. It's kind of odd because of how you commented on this. You'll learn about me in due time, William. It was not my time. Viserys had to be born first. I'm sorry, I didn't make it sound that way, but that's fine. I guess I will wait with anticipation to hear about your birth. Well, I'm glad you seemed a bit pleased and excited about this, William, but I'm trying to be serious. I know, sorry. Please forgive me and continue, Daenerys. Kind of shakes her head a bit, and then continues on. My father had, at the time after my oldest brother, Prince Rhaegar, was born, had blamed my mother, his sister, and Queen Rhaegar Targaryen for many of the stillborns, prince and princesses that were born dead or only lived a short time and then died. But eventually he kind of smoothed things over because he wasn't exactly living a Targaryen lifestyle himself. Not as bad as former King Aegon IV, but he did act somewhat promiscuously with infidelities, though that is a shameful thing for me to admit of my father doing. But he made amends for it by going to the Faith of the Seven. That was way before we even had our own religious experience and the truth of the Faith of the Seven and how they do things were discovered. At least not all at once. Not like the very first priestess who formed it. Because again, the gods of fire and ice are still growing, and so it is not as popular as the Faith of the Seven yet. In any case, Viserys then is born. And as tensions start to rise, a prophecy that brings about my uncle, who you've already met, and he was purposely kept out of the records, which you will learn about, starts to show the signs where finally the worst possible tragedy is yet to happen. The fall of the House of Targaryen. And unfortunately, it caused me and Viserys to be in exile. I'm sorry to hear that. It's okay. I do make a comeback before you came into this world, William. Before I was lost to the abyss, which you'll learn about much later. Well, I look forward to learning again as much as I can, and I will keep an open mind and be respectful, mindful of what I learn. I thank you, William. So with that, she, with an encouraging smile, waits for William to open the seal and start reading the scroll. Aerys II Targaryen. Aerys II Targaryen, also called the Mad King and King Scab, was the 17th and last member of the Targaryen dynasty to sit the Iron Throne, ruling from 262 AC to 283 AC. His children that lived to adulthood by his sister wife Rhaegar Targaryen were Rhaegar, Viserys, and Daenerys. Aerys showed great promise at the start of his reign, bringing peace and prosperity to the Seven Kingdoms, but later descended into insanity caused by, amongst other factors, multiple miscarriages and stillbirths, the deaths of 3 sons, and a brief uprising known as the Defiance of Duskendale, in which he was held prisoner for half a year by a rebellious lord. His paranoia and cruelty grew out of control. He was eventually killed by a member of his own King's Guard, Sir Jaime Lannister, during Robert's Rebellion. In the television adaptation Game of Thrones, he is played by David Rintoul, who appears as the Mad King in flashbacks. Appearance and character. In his youth, while not being the most intelligent nor the most diligent of princes, he was described as having an undeniable charm. He was generous, handsome, and resolute, although somewhat quick to anger. He was also vain, proud, and changeable, traits that made him easy prey for lickspittles and flatterers. As he grew older, Aerys became increasingly jealous, suspicious, and cruel, prone to furious outbursts. After the Defiance of Duskendale, these characteristics became more pronounced. He began to see every unexplained event or act of minor defiance as evidence of fearful conspiracies against him, and devised sadistic punishments for those he imagined to be his enemies. He developed a fascination with fire, which eventually grew so consuming that he could only become sexually aroused by watching someone burn to death. His marriage to his sister wife, Rhaegar, were never happy, became sexually abusive late in his reign. By the end of his life, Aerys' madness had taken a serious toll on his appearance, so that although only 40 years old at the time of his death, he looked much older. He ate little and became gaunt as a result of his fear of poison. After repeatedly cutting himself on the Iron Throne, Aerys developed a phobia of blades and forbade any sharp implements in his presence other than the swords of his King's Guard, refusing even to trim his nails or hair. His fingernails grew to cracked yellow claws 9 inches long. His beard was matted and unwashed, and his silver-gold hair hung down to his waist in wild tangles. His arms and legs were always covered with scabs and half-healed cuts from the Iron Throne. He wore the elaborate dragon-emblazoned crown of Aegon the Unworthy. In review, as we will cover this briefly, we remember that the Summer Hall tragedy involved the deaths of King Aegon V Targaryen, who wanted to hatch dragon eggs. At the time of the Summerhall tragedy, his firstborn son, Prince Duncan Targaryen, whose title was renounced for the love of his life, known as Lady Jenny of Oldstones, and thus took the title of Prince of Dragonflies, was also perished in the Summerhall tragedy. Also, Lord Commander of the King's Guard, Duncan the Tall, had also perished, but not before becoming a hero and having saved it was Aerys II Targaryen's sister and wife, Princess Rhaegar Targaryen. As the narrators know, though I had made an error in the last episode, it was not Rhaegar Targaryen, the wife of Jaehaerys II, who was pregnant at the time. It was, in fact, Aerys II Targaryen's sister and wife, and who was queen later, Rhaegar Targaryen, who was pregnant with Rhaegar. So after having saved her from being perished, he tried to go save others, but never made it back out, and with many others, had perished as well. The birth of Rhaegar Targaryen to Prince Aerys II Targaryen and Princess Rhaegar Targaryen took place outside of Summerhall as it burned red hot for many, many hours until daybreak, or until the fires are officially out by noon of the next day. The ghost of Highheart had been known to mourn for Jenny of Oldstones in 259 AC, possibly because she thought that she too had perished in the fire. Apparently they were good friends. What she didn't know is that Jenny of Oldstones actually survived, but this reunion would come up later. The next part of the review covers a brief moment at Castle Black, sometimes referred to as the Wall or the Gift. And it's where those who have committed crimes would be sent if they weren't sentenced to death, or given the option of taking the oath of the Night's Watch, where they could never marry and serve the rest of their life at Castle Black on the Wall. Maester Aemon had a test. That would be his first Blackwatch test. This test wasn't like, taking a basic exam or anything, but probably to see how he would handle a certain piece of information or circumstance that would occur. The circumstance then, of course, for the Brothers of the Night's Watch, Maester Aemon's first test was when he heard about Aegon V, who had perished in the tragic fire of Summerhall. It was probably to see how he would respond. Would he try to violate his sworn oaths? Of course, then he would be wanted to be tried, convicted, and executed. But Maester Aemon passed the test, even though it most likely did have a grave effect on him, because he will not be able to tease his younger brother and maybe even for fun, poke fun at him about his title when he was learning to be a knight, known as Egg. So he will no longer see his younger brother because of the Summerhall fires. At the same time, for the Night's Watch, now, as we all know, when Maester Aemon sailed for the Wall in 233 AC, he was escorted by King Aegon V's friend, Sir Duncan the Tall of the King's Guard, and accompanied by an honor guard of recruits for the Night's Watch. And these were 200 men and prisoners among them. Brynden Rivers and archers from his Raven's Teeth. Of course, once they were at the Castle Black, then Duncan the Tall would most likely had to return back to continue his duties with Aegon V Targaryen, who was the ruling king at the time. Meanwhile, Brynden had rose to the position of Lord Commander of the Night's Watch in 239 AC. However, he disappeared while ranging beyond the wall in 252 AC. One can only imagine that, as had been done in the, as a narrator's note, those of the Night's Watch probably went out from the wall, probably on a scouting party or what have you, and Brynden Rivers somehow conveniently disappeared. Now, of course, the first thing that would come to mind, for whoever is in charge or second command to Brynden Rivers, who happened to be Lord Commander at the time, is that he broke his oath and also misrepresenting the Night's Watch by trying to escape himself. But then a little bit of fear sets into them because they don't see any footprints. Now, they're not sure what to make of this, and they don't want to appear as cowards, so they probably keep that fear to themselves. But they are going to have to report that Brynden Rivers, formerly known as Bloodraven and the new Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, is no longer with them. So that means they're going to have to take a vote, and they'll have to have a new Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. And most likely they'll send out a search party, and if he's found, well, we all know what that means. He will be tried, convicted, and executed that same day, as is the custom for anyone who escapes Castle Black. But if they don't find him, then it would be hard to imagine what they could decide, because one doesn't just fall off the edge of the known world for the realm of the Seven Kingdoms. That in itself becomes an ominous mystery. However, we now go to the situation with the House Blackfire, which finally was defeated. As remember, Lord Ormond Baratheon was killed in battle by Meleys I Blackfire. But on the other hand, Meleys I Blackfire, though it took quite some time, almost about a year from what information and reliable sources had indicated, to be defeated by one known as Barristan Selmy. So in which case then, Meleys I Blackfire was the last of the Blackfire Rebellion, and thus House Blackfire was finally destroyed. Looking deeper into Barristan Selmy's past, we find that early in life, Barristan was born the first son of Sir Lionel Selmy, the Knight of Harvest Hall. He squired for Lord Manfred Swan in his youth. At the age of 10, Barristan donned the armor of a mystery knight and entered a tourney at Blackhaven. Prince Duncan Targaryen took pity on the small mystery knight, while others laughed. Duncan jousted Selmy when no one else would, and it was Duncan who gave Barristan his epithet. Barristan received his knighthood at the age of 16 from King Aegon V Targaryen, and unhorsing Prince Duncan Targaryen, and Lord Commander Duncan the Tall of the King's Guard at a tourney in King's Landing. An eminently successful tourney knight throughout his career, he also proved his worth on the battlefield. During the War of the Ninepenny Kings, Barristan slew Meleys I Blackfire in single combat, ending the male line of the Blackfire pretenders. Selmy had to cut a bloody path through the Golden Company just to reach him. The remaining members of the Band of Nine had little to no interest in conquering Westeros, and soon returned to their own domains. Barristan's deeds during the War of the Nine Penny Kings gained him undying fame, and his name was well known throughout the Seven Kingdoms afterwards. Barristan was named to the King's Guard at the age of 23 and swore his vows before Sir Gerald Hightower, while King Jaehaerys II Targaryen bestowed the White Cloak on him. In joining the King's Guard, he gave up the claim to his family seat, and the girl he was to wed was married to his cousin instead. Upon returning to King's Landing, it was then that they heard of the sad news about what had befallen King Aegon V Targaryen, his first son, Duncan, the Prince of Dragonflies, and his best friend, Duncan the Tall. So in which case then, at that time, Aerys II became Prince of Dragonstone, as Jaehaerys II became the new king of the Iron Throne for the realm of the kingdom. Paxter Redwyne. Paxter Redwyne is the Lord of the Arbor and head of House Redwyne. He is married to his cousin, Mina Tyrell, the sister of his liege lord, Mace Tyrell. He is thus twice a nephew of the Queen of Thorns, Olenna Redwyne. Paxter and Mina have two sons, Sir Horace and Sir Hobber, and a daughter, Desmara. Paxter commands the Redwyne fleet from his galleas, the Arbor Queen. His healer is Maester Balabar. In appearance, Paxter is stooped or shoulder, thin, and balding, with only a few orange tufts of hair remaining. Mina Tyrell. Lady Mina Tyrell is a member of House Tyrell and sister to the current head lord, Mace Tyrell. She is the wife of Lord Paxter Redwyne, and they have 3 children, Sir Horace, Sir Hobber, and Desmara Redwyne. She is younger than her husband. Gorman Tyrell. Gorman Tyrell is a maester serving at the Citadel. He is an uncle of Mace Tyrell, Lord of Highgarden. Garth Tyrell. Garth Tyrell, better known as Garth the Gross, is the uncle of Lord Mace Tyrell. He serves his nephew as the Lord Seneschal of Highgarden, as he served Mace's father, Lord Luther. He has 2 bastard sons, Garce and Garrett Flowers. He is flatulent. Garce Flowers. Garce Flowers is a bastard son of Garth the Gross. Morwen Tyrell. Sir Morwen Tyrell is a knight from House Tyrell, the uncle of Mace Tyrell, Lord of Highgarden. Morwen is the Lord Commander of the City Watch of Old Town. Okay! Continuing where we left off, and as you could tell from the background, the House Tyrell are not lazy by any means. They are very hardworking. So anyway, continuing where we left off, prior to Squire somebody hollering in the background, Luther Tyrell is the son of Morwen and was a knight of House Tyrell, the eldest son of Sir Morwen Tyrell. He was married to Ellen Norridge, with whom he had 3 children, Sir Theodore, Oline, and Medwick Tyrell. Unfortunately, he is deceased. Mace Tyrell. Mace Tyrell is head of House Tyrell, Lord of Highgarden, defender of the marshes, High Marshal of the Reach, and Warden of the South. In the television adaptation, Game of Thrones, he is portrayed by Roger Ashton Griffiths. Appearance and character. Mace is a handsome and once powerful-looking man who has since turned to fat. He has curly brown hair and cuts his beard, which has white and gray specks in it, into a triangular shape. He is often red-faced. Cersei Lannister thinks of Mace as the same age as her father, Lord Tyrien Lannister, although Mace is closer in age to her than to Tyrien. Mace thinks himself a great warrior, although his reputation rests solely on the victory over Robert I Baratheon in the Battle of Ashford during Robert's rebellion, which had largely been won by Mace Bannerman, Lord Randall Tarley, before Mace even arrived at the battlefield, and the command Mace held during the siege of Storm's End later that war, which ended when Mace dipped his banners to Lord Eddard Stark. Mace is ambitious and wishes to see a grandchild of his own on the Iron Throne. Despite that, his mother, Lady Olenna Tyrell, can easily hector him and so influence his decisions. Mace is considered an oaf by his mother and by Cersei Lannister, and a fool by Prince Oberyn Martell and Cersei. His favorite son is Loras, the youngest, and his closest friend is Lord Paxter Redwyn, his brother-in-law. Mace has a great dislike for Dornishmen, especially Prince Oberyn Martell, who accidentally crippled Mace's heir, Willis. Jenna Tyrell. Lady Jenna Tyrell is the sister of Lord Mace Tyrell. She is married to Sir John Fossaway. In appearance, Jenna is buxom. Aerys II Targaryen, son of Jaehaerys II Targaryen, and Shayra Targaryen, queen and sister. In early life, Aerys was born to Prince Jaehaerys, the second son of King Aegon V, and his sister wife, Princess Shayra. While still a teenager, Aerys was married to his sister, Rhaegar, in accordance with the family tradition of dynastic incest. While Aerys' grandfather, King Aegon V Targaryen, was against this incestuous marriage, as he had been against incestuous marriages with his own children, Jaehaerys was allowed to arrange it. Jaehaerys' motivation for the marriage was a prophecy made by a woods witch, which had been interpreted to mean that the prince's promise would be born of the line of Aerys and Rhaegar. According to Sir Varys Selmy, who was present at the wedding, there was no fondness between the two siblings. During his youth, Aerys befriended the young heir to Casterly Rock, Tyrien Lannister. He served as a page at the royal court. Aerys also befriended the heir to Storm's End, his cousin Stephen Baratheon. The three became inseparable. In 259 AC, Rhaegar gave birth to their firstborn son and heir, Prince Rhaegar. He was born in blood and grief, quote unquote, during the disaster known as the Tragedy of Summerhall, which killed King Aegon V, his eldest son, Prince Duncan, and many others. Aerys' father, Jaehaerys, ascended the Iron Throne after the tragedy. It would later be rumored that on the night of Jaehaerys' coronation, Aerys took the maidenhead of Lady Joanna Lannister, who had come to court for the celebration. Aerys was a squire during the War of the Nine Kings and fought in the Essos. There, at the age of 60, he received his knighthood. Aerys chose to be dubbed a knight by his friend, Jaime. When King Jaehaerys II passed away from illness in 262 AC, after having ruled for only 3 years, Prince Aerys was crowned as King Aerys II Targaryen. Mathis Rowan. Mathis Rowan of House is the Lord of Goldengrove and head of House Rowan. He is married to Lady Bethany Redwine and has 3 children by her. Appearance and character. Mathis is stout, florid, and clean-shaven. He wears a snowy doublet, the great tree worked upon the breast in gold thread. According to Sir Kevin Lannister, Mathis is sensible, prudent, well-liked, able, and loyal. Tyrien Lannister thinks Mathis is gruff, blunt, and to the point. Robert I Baratheon. Robert I Baratheon is the Lord of the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros and the head of House Baratheon of King's Landing. Robert was crowned king after King Aerys II Targaryen, his first cousin, once removed, was killed during Robert's rebellion. Following the war, Robert married Cersei Lannister to ensure political stability. With her, Robert has 3 children, Joffrey, Myrcella, and Tommen. In the television adaptation, Game of Thrones, he is played by Mark Addy. In history of his early life, he was born in 262 AC. Robert was the firstborn child of Cassana Estermond and Stephen Baratheon, Lord of Storm's End, Lord Paramount of the Stormlands, and head of House Baratheon. He was a scant year older than his brother Stannis, who was born in 264 AC. When Robert was already in his teens, his youngest brother, Renly, was born. According to Stannis, when Robert was 5 or 6 years old, the 2 brothers were brought to court by their father, Stephen, where they witnessed the hand of the king, Lord Tyrien Lannister, sitting on the Iron Throne and holding court. From an early age onwards, Robert had been fostered by Lord Jon Arryn and the Eyrie, together with Eddard Stark of Winterfell. The 2 boys became fast friends, and Jon Arryn, who had no children of his own, became like a second father to them. During the period in which he was fostered, Robert visited Storm's End on multiple occasions. At some point, Robert was knighted. During a tourney at Storm's End, Robert was defeated by Sir Barristan Selmy. In 278 AC, Robert's father was sent on a mission by King Aerys II Targaryen to travel to Volantis to find a bride for Robert's cousin, Crown Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. The mission failed, and Stephen, accompanied by his wife, returned home. Robert and Stannis were present at Storm's End when their parents were expected to arrive. When the ship came into sight of Storm's End, the boys witnessed how a storm in Shipbreaker Bay sank the ship their parents were on. With his father's death, Robert became the Lord of Storm's End. Paxter Redwine. Paxter Redwine is the Lord of the Arbor and head of House Redwine. He is married to his cousin, Lena Tyrell, the sister of his liege lord, Mace Tyrell. He is thus twice the nephew of Queen of Thorns, Olenna Redwine. Paxter and Nina have two sons, Sir Horace and Sir Hobber, and a daughter, Desmera. Paxter commands the Red Wine Fleet from his galleys, the Arbor Queen. His healer is Maester Malabar. And at this time, it was the birth of Horace Redwine. Horace Redwine, that is Sir Horace Redwine, mocked as Horror, is a knight of House Redwine and heir to the Arbor. He is the son of Lord Paxter Redwine and Lady Lena Tyrell, and older twin to Sir Hobber. In appearance, Horace is homely, with orange hair and a square freckled face. Garrett Flowers. Garrett Flowers is the second-born bastard son of Garth the Gross. Morin Tyrell. Sir Morin Tyrell is a knight from House Tyrell, the uncle of Mace Tyrell, Lord of Highgarden. Morin is the Lord Commander of the City Watch of Old Town. His son is Leo Tyrell, a student of the Citadel. Their firstborn son is Luther Tyrell, son of Morin. Sir Luther Tyrell was a knight of House Tyrell, eldest son of Sir Morin Tyrell. He was married to Ellen Norwich, with whom he had 3 children, Sir Theodore, Oline, and Medwit Tyrell. He is, of course, deceased. Joanna Lannister. Joanna Lannister decided to take the proposal, for which was presented to her by Tywin Lannister in 263 AC. Joanna married her first cousin Tywin, now serving as Aerys Hand of the King in 263 AC, in a lavish ceremony in the Great Sept of Baelor. On their wedding day, the oft-grim Tywin smiled, a rare occurrence. At the wedding feast, Aerys drunkenly japed about how it was a pity the first night tradition was banned. They took certain, quote, unwonted liberties, unquote, with Joanna in the bedding ritual when the men at the feast had to disrobe the bride. Not long thereafter, Joanna was dismissed by Queen Rhaegar Targaryen from her service in King's Landing. While Rhaegar turned a blind eye towards most of her husband's infidelities, she did not approve when it concerned one of her own ladies, several of whom were sent away from court. Joanna departed for Casterly Rock at once, and she seldom visited the capital afterwards. Joanna's marriage to Tywin was reportedly a happy one, and she became Tywin's trusted counselor and companion. Her influence on her husband was such that people say that Tywin ruled the Seven Kingdoms as Ham, but was ruled at home by his lady wife, quote unquote. In 266 AC, Joanna gave birth to Cersei and Jaime when Tywin present. King Aerys ordered Tywin to bring Joanna and the children to King's Landing when the children were old enough to travel, but Lord Titus Lannister died before this could occur. Instead, Tywin, Aerys, Prince Rhaegar, and half his court went to Westeros in 267 AC, where they remained for most of the next year. Essos Rowan. Essos Rowan is the Lord of Goldenrowan and head of House Rowan. He's married to Lady Bethany Redwine and has 3 children by her. This is also the second-born child, who, unfortunately, like the last one, is uncertain what the child's name is. Stannis Baratheon. Stannis Baratheon is the head of House Baratheon of Dragonstone and the Lord of Dragonstone. He is the second-born son of Stephen Baratheon, Lord of Storm's End, and Lady Cassana Estermont. He has an older brother, King Robert I Baratheon, and a younger brother, Lord Renly Baratheon. Stannis serves on Robert's small council as the Master of Ships. In the television adaptation Game of Thrones, Stannis is played by Stephen Delane. In history for his early life, born in 264 AC, Stannis was the second son of Lady Cassana Estermont and Lord Stephen Baratheon of Storm's End. He had an older brother, Robert, and a younger brother, Renly. When Stannis was no more than 4 years old, his father took him and his brother Robert to court. There, Stannis believed he saw King Aerys II Targaryen on the Iron Throne, holding court. Stannis was impressed, and he and Robert agreed that the king had been as noble as the dragons were fearsome. And it was years later that Stephen told him that it had been hand of the king, Tywin Lannister, whom they had seen, as King Aerys had cut himself on the throne earlier that day, and Tywin had taken over for him. As a lad, Stannis found an injured ghost shark and nursed it back to health. He named the bird Proudwing. But his brother, Robert, called it Weak Wing, as it would never fly higher than the treetops, and never soar. Robert himself owned a gear falcon named Thundercloud, who never missed a strike. Eventually, Stannis' great uncle, Harbert, convinced him to abandon the bird, stating that Stannis was making a fool of himself with it. Growing up, Stannis always stood in the shadow of his older brother. Whatever Stannis did, Robert had done first and better. These feelings remained until adulthood. Maester Creston, the Maester at Storm's End, came to care deeply for Stannis, more so than for his brothers. He felt Stannis was the one who needed him the most, as the most unloved of the 3. Even in his youth, Stannis had been an introverted child who was mature beyond his years, solemn and joyless. In 278 AC, Stannis' parents were sent on a mission by King Aerys II to Volantis to find a bride for Stannis' cousin, Crown Prince Rhaegar Targaryen. They were unsuccessful. Maester Creston remembers how Lord Stephen had written to him a fortnight before his return, stating that he had found a splendid fool in Volantis who would delight Robert and who might even teach Stannis how to laugh in time. Stannis and Robert were both present at Storm's End when Stefan and Cassandra were expected to return from their voyage, looking on from the parapets of the castle. When the wind crowd came in sight of Storm's End, the two brothers witnessed how the ship was smashed against the rocks in Shipbreaker Bay, and swallowed by the sea. Both Stefan and Cassandra drowned. According to Stannis, he lost his faith in the Seven that day. Meanwhile, at the wall, sometimes referred to as the Gift, at Castle Black of the Night's Watch, Maester Aemon, once again, received a second test, much like the first. This test was based on the information of Daenerys II Targaryen having passed on due to the complaints of illness or shortness of breath, and expecting to see what kind of response he had, whether he'd want to abandon the Brothers of the Night's Watch and the vows that he had made. He did not. As before, Maester Aemon had passed the second test and remained where he had taken his vows of the Night's Watch. Ghost of Highheart. The Ghost of Highheart is an old, stooped, very short woman who has visions of the future and the past. She lives at Highheart in the Riverlands. In appearance, the Ghost of Highheart walks with a gnarled black cane. She has white hair, so long it almost touches the ground. Her flesh is very pale, and she has red eyes. She is no more than 3 feet tall. In history, when Jenny of Oldstones came to court after marrying Prince Duncan Targaryen, she was accompanied by her friend, a dwarfish albino woman who was reputed to be a woods witch in the Riverlands. Lady Jenny claimed that she was a child of the forest, although this was not true. After hearing the woods witch prophecy, the prince that was promised would come from the line of Aerys and Rhaegar Targaryen, their father, Prince Jaehaerys, insisted that they marry. The woods witch was present at the tragic destruction of Summerhall in 259 AC, and was believed to have died there. However, she somehow survived and returned to the Riverlands, where she mourned for her friend, Jenny. As an extra notation, it is considered to be in belief that she wasn't really that decrepit, nor that old. In fact, she was quite slender and tall, carried a staff with a crystal on it, and was quite lovely. But it wouldn't be until the mysterious uncle, or in this case, half-uncle, that is not put on the genealogical records of the future birth of Daenerys Stormborn of the House of Targaryen, that she does come looking stooped over and very old. Ellen Norwich. Ellen Norwich is a member of House Norwich, and with the recent betrothal is now wife of Sir Luther Tyrell. Willis Tyrell. Willis Tyrell is a member of House Tyrell and the eldest son of Lord Mace Tyrell and Lady Ellery Hightower. He is the heir to Highgarden. In appearance and character, Willis is crippled with a bad leg. He is often noted as studious, educated, and kind, and is known for breeding the finest hawks, hounds, and horses in the Seven Kingdoms. In history, Willis was born the eldest son, Lord Mace Tyrell, and Lady Ellery Hightower. During his first tourney, he competed against Prince Oberyn Martell of Dorne, who knocked Willis from his horse. Unfortunately, his foot caught in his stirrup as he fell, and Willis pulled his horse on top of him, crushing his leg and leaving him a cripple. Although the incident fanned the flames of the considerable and historical enmity between Houses Tyrell and Martell, Willis bore Oberyn no personal ill, and the two long remained in correspondence, sharing a passion for horseflesh. Ever since his accident, Willis has occupied himself with scholarly studies. Willis's grandmother, Olenna Tyrell, despite having a low opinion of her son Mace, has a high opinion for her grandson. Willis gave his younger brother, Garland, his nickname, Garland the Gallant, quote unquote. Paxter Redwine. Paxter Redwine is the Lord of the Arbor and head of House Redwine. He is married to his cousin, Mina Tyrell, the sister of his liege lord, Mace Tyrell. He is thus twice a nephew of the Queen of Thorns, Olenna Redwine. Paxter and Mina have two sons, Sir Horace and Sir Hober, and a daughter, Desmera. Paxter commands the Redwine fleet from his galleys, the Arbor Queen. His healer is Maester Balabar. Desmera Redwine. Desmera Redwine is the daughter and youngest child of Lord Paxter Redwine and Mina Tyrell. She has freckles. Leo Tyrell, son of Morin Tyrell. Leo Tyrell, known as Leo the Lazy, is from a cadet branch of House Tyrell, the son of Sir Morin Tyrell, commander of Old Town City Watch. Leo is a student at the Citadel. Appearance and character. Handsome and pale, with sly hazel eyes and a cruel mouth, Leo has a soft voice and ash blonde hair which falls over one eye. He dresses in satin striped in the Tyrell colors of green and gold. He has worn a black silk half cape pinned to his shoulder by a jade rose, and a half cape striped in green and gold. The arrogant and malicious Leo often gives mocking names to his acquaintances and speaks unpleasantly of Dornishmen and Summer Islanders. He is disliked by his fellow students. Leo sometimes gambles at the checkered hazard to the point of losing all his money and having to beg for drinks from acquaintances. He has been trained to arms and is known to be deadly with Braavos' blade and dagger. Garland Tyrell. Sir Garland Tyrell, known as Garland the Gallant, is a knight of House Tyrell, the second son of Lord Mace Tyrell and Lady Alury Hightower. His personal coat of arms is 2 golden roses on green to denote his status as second son. Appearance and character. Garland is similar in appearance to his younger brother, Sir Loras Tyrell, but he is taller, more broadly built, and has a beard. Garland is 5 years older than Loras. He is an exceptionally skilled swordsman, preferring to train against 3 or 4 swordsmen, so as to better prepare himself for actual battle. But his lack of interest in gaining glory makes him less famous than Loras. In history, Garland was plump in his youth. His elder brother, Willis, shrewdly dubbed him the Gallant to save him from the indignity that befell an uncle nicknamed Garth the Gross. He is married to Lady Leonette of House Fossaway. Cersei Lannister. Cersei Lannister is the only daughter and eldest child of Lord Tywin Lannister of Casterly Rock and his wife, Lady Joanna Lannister. She is the twin of her younger brother, Sir Jaime Lannister. In the television adaptation Game of Thrones, Cersei is played by Lena Headey and is portrayed when she is a child by Nell Williams in a season 5 flashback. After Robert's rebellion, Cersei married King Robert I Baratheon and became Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. She is the mother of Prince Joffrey, Princess Myrcella, and Prince Tommen of House Baratheon of King's Landing. Cersei becomes a POV character in A Feast for Crows. In history of her early life, Cersei was born in 266 AC as the firstborn child and only daughter to Sir Tywin Lannister, heir to Casterly Rock, and his wife, Lady Joanna. Cersei was born shortly before her twin brother, Jaime, who was holding her foot. King Aerys II Targaryen sent the twins their weights in gold as a name day gift, and commanded Tywin to bring the children to court when they were old enough to travel. It is currently unknown whether this visit to King's Landing actually occurred, as the royal court came to Casterly Rock following the death of Lord Tytos Lannister in 276 AC. Cersei and Jaime did visit King's Landing in 272 AC, when their mother brought them from Casterly Rock for the anniversary tourney held to celebrate the 10th year of King Aerys' reign. Jaime Lannister. Jaime redirects here. For other characters named Jaime, you'll have to do that research yourself. However, he's also known as the Kinglsayer, which you will find out why later. Sir Jaime Lannister, also known as the Kinglsayer, is a knight from House Lannister. He is the second child and firstborn son of Lord Tywin Lannister of Casterly Rock and his wife, Lady Joanna, also of House Lannister. He is the twin brother of Queen Cersei Lannister. Raised at the age of 15 to the King's Guard of the Mad King, Aerys II Targaryen, Jaime became the youngest member in the history of the prestigious knightly order. He earned the derogatory name Kinglsayer when he treasonously slew Aerys near the end of Robert's Rebellion. In A Storm of Swords, Jaime becomes a POV character. In the television adaptation, Game of Thrones, he is played by Nicolas Coster-Waldau. In history, for his early life, Jaime was born in 266 AC as the firstborn son of Sir Tywin Lannister, the heir to Casterly Rock, and his wife, Lady Joanna. Jaime was born shortly after his twin sister Cersei, while holding her foot. King Aerys II Targaryen sent both Jaime and Cersei their weight in gold as a name-day gift and commanded Lord Tywin to bring the children to court when they were old enough to travel. It is currently unknown whether this visit to King's Landing actually occurred, as the royal court came to Casterly Rock following the death of Tytos Lannister in 276 AC. Jaime and Cersei did visit King's Landing in 272 AC, when their mother brought them from Casterly Rock for the anniversary tourney held to celebrate the 10th year of King Aerys' reign. Tywin Lannister, Lord of Casterly Rock. Now, upon the death of King Aerys II Targaryen, the newly crowned King Aerys II Targaryen chose his friend Sir Tywin as Hand of the King, impressed by the ruthlessness demonstrated against the rebellious Rhaens and Tarbeks. Tywin spent much of his time at the court of King's Landing. His father continued to rule the Westerlands for the next few years, though still a weak lord. None of his other vassals dared cause trouble after seeing what his heir Tywin did to Rhaens and Tarbeks. When Tywin's father Tytos finally keeled over a burst heart in 267 AC, while climbing a flight of steps to visit his new mistress, Sir Tywin became the Lord of Casterly Rock and Warden of the West. Upon his return to Casterly Rock after hearing of his father's death, Tywin found his father's new mistress trying on one of his late mother's gowns. Tywin learned that while he was away serving as at King's Landing, his father's mistress, the daughter of a chandler, dominated Tytos utterly, ordering about the household knights and dismissing servants and helping herself to his late wife's jewelry. Tywin had her stripped naked and forced the sobbing woman to walk the streets of Lannister to confess to every man she met that she was a thief and a harlot before banishing her from the Westerlands. As a result of his father's follies, Tywin Lannister never laughed as he mistrusted laughter, hearing too much of it directed at his father and House Lannister in his youth. Tywin also seldom smiled when he was young and never smiled again after his wife's death. Also, we almost missed one about Paxter red wine, which was Hobber red wine. Sir Hobber red wine, mocked as Slobber, is a knight of House Redwine. He is the son of Lord Paxter Redwine and Lady Mina Tyrell, and younger twin to Sir Horace. In the House of Targaryen, there was a first-time stillborn baby that took place between Aerys II Targaryen and Rhaegar Targaryen, sister and queen to Aerys II Targaryen. Her name was Shaena Targaryen, Princess Shaena Targaryen was the stillborn second child of King Aerys II Targaryen and Queen Rhaegar Targaryen. In history, Shaena was stillborn in 267 AC, while her father Aerys II, her brother Rhaegar, and half the court were present in the Westeros. Shaena's mother, Queen Rhaegar, had remained in King's Landing. Aerys II Targaryen. Tywin won the support of the wealthy merchants by reducing tariffs on shipping to Old Town, Lannister, and King's Landing, which increased trade. He sternly punished any baker caught mixing sawdust with bread or any butcher selling horse meat as beef. Tywin built new roads and repaired old ones, held splendid tournaments about the realm to the delight of knights and commons both. Despite these accomplishments, Tywin was little loved, for he was also humorless, unforgiving, unbending, proud, and insensitive, traits that earned him many rivals, even his bannermen, while greatly respecting him and loyally following him to war, bore him little love. The relationship between Aerys and Tywin was always complicated. When he was still a prince, Aerys had developed a crush on Joanna Lannister, who was to marry her cousin Tywin. Aerys was present at the wedding in 263 AC and drank too much during the feast, leading to him joking that it was a great pity that the Lord's right to the first night had been abolished to taking certain liberties during the wedding. It is said that Tywin did not forget Aerys' behavior. Aerys' marriage to his younger sister, Rhaegar, was less happy than Tywin's. Aerys was known to keep many mistresses, and whilst Rhaegar turned a blind eye to her husband's infidelities, she objected heavily against turning my ladies into whores, quote unquote. 263 AC, Lady Joanna Lannister was dismissed by Rhaegar shortly after having married Tywin. Whilst no official reason was given for Joanna's abrupt dismissal, she was not the first of Rhaegar's ladies to be dismissed in this fashion, nor was she the last. Aerys' many relationships were not the only strain on his marriage. Rhaegar's difficulties with childbirth played their part as well. In 263 AC and 264 AC, Rhaegar had miscarriages. 267 AC, whilst Aerys was away in the Westerlands, Rhaegar gave birth to the stillborn princess, Shaena. Mathis Rowan. Mathis Rowan is the Lord of Golden Grove and head of House Rowan. He is married to Lady Bethany Redwine and has 3 children by her. Again, his appearance and character is that he is stout, florid, and clean-shaven. He wears a snowy doublet with a great tree worked upon the breast in gold thread. According to Sir Kevin Lannister, Mathis is sensible, prudent, well-liked, able, and loyal. Tyrion Lannister, on the other hand, thinks Mathis is gruff, blunt, and to the point. It was at this time, again, a 4th child was born. This time it's a daughter, and unfortunately, as it was for the first 3 first, none of their names are ever known. But this time, this is going to be continued, as this is only the first half for part 1 of the fall of the House of Targaryen. So for all those who are great fans of our Grace, Queen Daenerys Stormborn of the House of Targaryen, make sure you come back and continue where you left off on this scroll.